Health Plans, your Medicare plans, insurance solutions, and resource agency. We have a variety of plans and products that fit your needs, benefit requirements, and budget, with many low or no-cost premium plans, zero co-pays, and much more. Our licensed benefits advisor's priority is your health and well-being. Call us today and book your no-obligation consultation. 1-929-367-5269.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio with your host, Hurricane Age. New day, new show, new topic, an awesome guest, and an interesting discussion today. With me, I have Rachel Oz, and she really, throws in all, we will be on with her with us today because her spin on things is unique, and she uses artistry, and she's an author. She's also a psychologist, and we're going to talk about all those angles together, mashed up, with her today. So, Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Listen, I'm excited. We have you, and we got to maximize this hour with you. So first things first, Rachel. Let's talk about your path. I mean, you are a psychologist, I guess, by work, by trade, but you do all of the above. You're also, I guess, a colorful dress code kind of personality or ambassador, and we talk about that. You're also an art playgroundist, and so we'd like to define what that is. So let's take us through your journey and how you went to psychology, and then what you do with that. I mean, is that just standard psychology, work therapy and things, or anything that you utilize, for people to help them out. And again, our purpose is really to educate our people, how to maybe apply some of the stuff that you do, whether it's color or dress, in all the stuff that you do. So first things first, who is Rachel?
Who is Rachel? Well, the clues as to who I was were all there when I was little. And so as a little girl, I loved listening to my friends and being really present, right? Like the little psychologist. And when I was little, I loved writing poetry and drawing, and I enjoyed my colorful clothing, so Who is Rachel began as a little girl who was so brilliant. She knew who she was, as we do when we're little. And so growing up for me has in some ways been about growing younger and into that wisdom of being free to really be myself.
Powerful stuff. And I think we can just pause on that one, because what you're stating right now is, I think, for audiences or whether you're their parents or they're younger folks, this is something that I think we should all kind of take a minute, because at an early age, personalities are developed, and everybody kind of sees themselves where they are and how they are, and of course things do change over time. But you've used that. I mean, your personality just kind of kept on that same trait, and you almost enjoyed who you were, and you just expanded on that.
I did, more than almost. I did enjoy who I was,
and you still do, right?
Yes, and I do. Yes.
Well, but that's powerful, right? We want people to actually feel good in their skin and just love who they are, and just work towards being who they are throughout life, and regardless of what people think. And I have to say, it's so funny. I just posted an actual, one of those. I do these little, I guess, memes or whatever you want to call them, or quotes. And it was about that, that believe in yourself, you are unique, special, you're worthy, and just no matter what anyone else says, something of that nature. I mean, it was a big one, but it's like, it's about embracing who you are and enjoying who you are, and taking that on the road. And I think you've done that. So that was your early on days, and then you took that to the next stage. So what drove you to psychiatry or to psychology?
Yeah. So I think that I continued to be told as I started to grow into a teenager and forward, Rachel, you're such a good listener, or people confiding in me. And it just felt like a very natural role. And then when I started taking psychology classes in high school and college, it just was my favorite subject. I did well in it, felt natural. So it just felt like eventually I want to get paid for who I am, you know? um,
A lot of people would want to have that, right? It's unfortunately it's not how
right.
we all operate. We
No,
wind
I
up in things. Yeah,
know. Yeah,
you
yeah.
did good.
Yeah. But there is a piece about listening to your life and really trusting, where is my joy? Where does my heart open? What makes me feel alive? And I think those are very profound clues to a sense of calling. And I don't mean for this to sound so dramatic, like everyone's path needs to sound like there's thunderbolts coming from the sky. But I do think it's lovely if it connects somehow to your heart and the way you're made, however that gets expressed authentically.
As I'm listening to you, right? And I was
Yeah,
reading something about you that you love to listen to people, you
yeah,
know, and their beautiful lives and stories and things like that. And
yeah,
you just kind of related back to when you were much younger, and that was
yeah,
something that always was like your natural state. And then you took it to the college level, and then you just like, this is it. I'm enjoying what I do. And
yeah.
so that leads me to this question, where do we go wrong? The majority of us somehow
Mm,
we don't wind up where we really are the best, in within ourselves. We actually sometimes we are forced to take routes and jobs and whatever career paths that maybe not really who our personality is. Sometimes people do adjust, sometimes they don't, and it does impact our psyche, right? It does impact on how
yeah,
we operate in life. So in your expertise, and your personality, because this is something you've actually experienced yourself,
yeah,
what
yeah,
would you tell audiences about that particular piece, and how can we potentially
yeah.
maybe change that trend from early on?
Yes. Well, I think that we can all get off course when I think that we're talking right now about profession, right?
Yes.
But I think that this is all about being who we are. And profession is one of the expressions of who we are, not the only expression. So I think that it even comes down to the smaller, ordinary, yet profound things. Do I remember who I am when I prepare food and what feels good in my body? Do I remember who I am with the clothing I select? And does it really bring me joy? Does it feel comfortable on my body? Um, do I remember who I am when I select relationships? Do my relationships honor me? And can I honor them? Like, is there a mutual respect of one another's boundaries and a celebration of who we each are? Do I remember myself with how I put a room together, with what I need for my sleep, with how I need to care for my very life? And I think that because I'm saying all those things, I think it directly relates to vocation, that it's the same thing as all those other things. Am I remembering who I am? Am I listening to who I am? And it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing like I'm going to become an astronaut, although maybe you are. But maybe it's I love to serve people, and am I lined up with that in some way, or et cetera, right? Or even my creative life has gone underground since I was little, and how can I unearth that again? And maybe it won't be in a full-blown profession, or maybe it will, but how would I just begin to have it expressed in me, even in whispers again, you know? Even if it's in my baking or cooking or so many different ways. So I think it's about, have I lost track of me?
Rachel, I'm listening to you, but what you've done there, it's a powerful, it's almost a technique that we all have to apply, which is asking those questions. I mean, you've asked so many questions about yourself, like, am I, do I, and so on and so forth. And
Right.
and I don't think that we do that exercise, as individuals, and let alone
Right.
when we're younger. It's like
Right.
and that's one part. The other part is that sometimes we just succumb to all the pressures, whether it's parents and society, and everybody's
Yeah.
guiding us to, like, well, we want to do this, we want you to do this, and
Right.
society wants you to do certain things, and maybe if you do this, you're crazy, or maybe if you do that, it's not. And so we don't even ask the questions like, who am I, type of thing, and what works for me. We're just like,
Right.
okay, it's either what's going to make the money for me, because that's
Yes.
kind of like, usually that's the tendency. We all
Yeah.
want, the rapid way, express way to actually make money. And I
Yeah.
listen, we all are guilty. Well, I would say personally, I
Oh,
have been
it's
in that.
real.
and,
Yeah.
and society puts it in you. It's like, it would be ideal to just live the life you always wanted, or like you dreamt of
Yeah.
from day one. But I don't think we have the capability. But there are ways, based on what you're saying, if we were to actually just reset ourselves at any point of our lives, that one, and or if we're early on as a younger generation, or even at an early, or parents can maybe apply this with their children. Listen, I can say, even with my kids, I might have influenced some of the stuff, although I've learned not to do that, and they are doing what they want at this point, and
Yeah.
they're following their own, I guess, vocational stuff. And so I learned that part, but I am also learning that same concept, like, where do I want to be? And now, for example, I'm doing the stuff I love, right? And I
Yes.
mean, I've been doing the things I love, but I'm getting even more into it. But that's something that, you have to, like, really almost stumble into, or like, let's, like, get into it, and distractions happen. So in your work,
Mhm.
when you have someone, like, they're in front of you and they just want to be in that position, how do you work with them? How do you get them to actually really revamp themselves and reset themselves?
Hmm. Well, I'm going to start with an obvious thing to say, which is it depends on what their story is about where I begin, because the story might be, well, I never had the mirror in front of me in the form of parents or teachers or people who believed in me. And so I came to not believe in me either, or think that I could achieve much, or maybe was told, you're never going to come down to nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And whether that's direct people in their life, or society, or racism, or all kinds of things. And so, depending on where that's coming from, I think that's where we begin. And really working on, here's the thing, Hurricane, is that I really have experienced this with myself, with other people over the years, that it's so important to find, what are the actual true messages about me? What are the true messages about my worth and about what's possible for me? Because if someone's caught up in, I'm not worth it, or I don't get to have those things, or things like that, whenever we believe something that's actually not true about us, we're going to feel disturbed inside. So if I believe I'm not worth much and I'm never going to become much, that's going to feel disturbing inside. But if I can hone in on what's really true, like, oh my gosh, I have this miracle. I have a heart in the middle of my chest that beats, and I know the tenderness I hold inside, and I know the kindness I have when conditions are just so, and I get safe and I can let that fly. And I know what lights me up, et cetera, right? If I can hone in on stuff that's true about me, I'm going to feel peaceful and good. So what I like to do is to try to bust through some of the mistruths that people have come to believe about themselves, and the evidence that it's not true if you feel disturbed by it. So I like to just sort of address what is going to make this person feel safe and secure, and like they're resting on a foundation of what's actually true about them, and what's going to promote actually being able to begin listening then to what actually brings me joy, what actually makes me feel more alive, and starting to look for that even in the small clues in your everyday life. That's where I would begin. But, this is like a whole slumber party of a conversation.
So now that sounds like self-discovery or self-talk, at first, right? That's something, it's an exercise that someone has to, first of all, be reminded that they can do and be willing to do, because sometimes we might not want to ask the questions because we're just so caught up. And if we think that if we did, we might have to stop what we're doing and change gears. And sometimes we just don't think that's the correct way to do it. And so despite that, we just continue doing the wrong stuff and really not being ourselves. And I think that's a big challenge, because I think a lot of us are probably in that category where we just are going, but we're not really finding who we truly are and working towards like enjoying our lives to the fullest. Because again, we are just doing things because we are told, or because it's just happening to be the easy way to make the money or whatever path that we choose.
Right.
So Rachel,
yeah.
Now let's talk about your. You definitely are doing the listening as in the work, and you can help people. But now your other stuff that you do, like the your colors and being an ambassador. What is that exactly, and how does that work?
What is an ambassador?
No, ambassador I get, but like you have this unique thing about the color codes, the dress code and stuff, and you're an ambassador of such, I guess, a trend. So what is that? Explain to us what that is, and if you can just tell us a little background on that.
Yes. Well, I generally do love wearing things that are colorful, that, it's for me, it's all about joy, and it's all about vibrancy and being myself. So when I was little, I reached for all kinds of things like that. 2 different colored patterned socks, they weren't the same socks, crocheted granny squares vest, different colors, flowers, hippie 70s funky flowers on my pants, blah, 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 all kinds of things in my hair, and then, I moderated that early in my career as a psychologist because I was trying to look professional. And then I think that as I settled into the profession a bit, there was something inside that started rising up again, like the way in the fall, the wind can sort of swirl the leaves on the ground and they just go like in a little circle. I think that was happening in my heart and soul. Like, it's never said that before until right now, but there it is. And I think something started rising back up again of remember yourself. And a couple little things began happening. Like, I remember being in a department store looking for a new pair of eyeglass frames. And the store I was in just had like a small little rectangular mirror that I could look in as I was trying the glasses, looking really close into the tiny mirror. And there was there was a green and purple swirly pair of eyeglass frames that I put on, and I couldn't stop giggling softly into the mirror. And then I'd take them off, and then I'd put on different glasses that were seeming more reasonable on my face and seemed to fit well. Okay, those would be good. And then I'd go back to the other pair and giggle again. And I decided, like, I'm not going to argue with my joy. And I got the green and purple swirly glasses. And then I also had like a quote reasonable black paper weekly calendar to schedule my clients, in, and that they would see, and so I'd take that out to schedule the next therapy session. And I thought that was professional. And it would have been fine if it actually brought me joy, but it really didn't. So there was a really colorful, fun weekly calendar that I had found in the store. And I thought, can I get that for my professional life? I don't know if it looks very professional. What will my clients think? But then I thought, it makes me so happy. I just have to do it. And a snowball began that I couldn't stop and I didn't want to stop. And suddenly my whole clothing just, and when I put my clothing together, I'm not fully thinking what matches. I'm just like, if my necklace brings me joy, if my kimono brings me joy, my sweater brings me joy, blah, 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 my leggings, then it's the joy that's going to match, And so I don't know. I hear colors as almost alive and like my friends, almost like they're my friends, and they invite me into my fuller life. So I don't know. And it's also an exercise in, do I like this? Does it bring me joy? Does it feel like me? And now I've done it so many times that I just hardly think of it. And I'm not self-conscious. Every now and then in public, I'll catch someone looking at me or someone will say something, but I'm not even, it's just normal now. And also I want my clothes to be really comfortable, but also the colors that come through my pen when I create my books, they're fully illustrated. I remember in grade school being so sad that picture books, when we got to chapter books, lost their photos, their pictures. I remember being really sad about that. So all of my books, I have 4 of them now, they're all full color, full of my illustrations for adults. So I don't know, it just, color comes with me.
Well, I love that, because you talked about whatever is bringing you joy, you apply, and regardless of what the society will think. And that's the other thing. Like, we all have this kind of pressure, or like the status quo that everybody has set for us, and we're just like, that's the routine. We're supposed to look a certain way. I mean, think about corporate, right? Everybody needs to dress a certain way. That trend has been changing over the years with like the actual tech companies and stuff. But still, there is some of that, and I get it's industry. There's more, and to each his own. I mean, it's the style. It's if you want to go that route, it's fine. But you bring a different angle. I mean, you mentioned hippies, and I can just imagine in the '70s, everybody looked very flourish and multicolor. But it was kind of like that's the way it is. And the funny part is that if you're happy, you can deliver more.
Yes.
If you have joy, you can do more.
Oh my gosh!
And it's contagious. It delivers to others. It like connects with others. But if you're really miserable and you just like my first gig was actually in Disney, so everything we had was about costumes. I mean, I had a costume on in every job that I did, whether my regular role or my overtime role, because I used to work different shifts. And every place you go to wardrobe and switch back to whatever that theme park is. And it was just, some of the stuff was very colorful, some of it was very funny, and people kind of like enjoy that. But again, it all takes confidence. Self-confidence is key. Like, first of all, you have to be cool about it and feel good about yourself and not worry about what people think.
Yeah.
One of the problems we have is that we're always thinking like what everybody is thinking. You're worried more about what people are going to think than what you're thinking about yourself and how you feel within your own dress code. I can relate to it to a degree, because I was always a little bit of a rebel when it comes to things. Like, I had my own dress code. Like, even today, I mean, I it's a joke. I wear 4, like my 2 glasses up front and the back. So I switch them. So some like for my Blu-rays, when I do work, and then the other ones are my sunglasses. And some people make fun of me, like, why is your glasses always in the back of your head? Like, I like to see things in 4D. I mean, you gotta, but that's my signature, and I don't care what people think. Maybe I wear my watch on the right, never wear on the left. Most of people wear on the left. I mean, there's certain things. I have a certain way of doing things, and that's my thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think people have to have their own signature in everything they do, and they should be happy about it, and regardless of what other people may think.
Right.
And that's like, sometimes people, well, you should dress your age.
What is that?
Exactly. What is that? I dress the way I feel, it makes me feel comfortable. If I dress as a teenager, that's cool. Maybe I'll buy the junior size. Who cares?
Yes, exactly.
But that's different. So for our audiences, I think this is a big part of what we'd like to send them, is that, live a colorful life, live a happy life, joyful life, because in order for you to, and I think you're a psychologist, this, because if your mind is happy and it's working and you're getting engaged and going to be better at everything you do. If you're really just putting yourself down every day because you're just trying to conform to some other, rules and regulations, it's not going to be you. And therefore you're like, that's what people get miserable at work, for example. And that's the standard thing. You're not happy. You're doing stuff that is completely against you, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And maybe good reasons. I mean, providing for you and your family could be a good reason, but you can do it some other way, but we're just not sure about what that is. And because we haven't discovered ourselves well enough. And I think that's a challenge.
Yes.
So, and I love what you said. You can walk, you don't care. You don't even think about it. And maybe somebody kind of looks at you the wrong way or whatever. They look at you like, what's up? You're good. And you said it. It's not about the colors don't have to match necessarily.
Yeah.
So that's one, like in my case, I match everything. And it's not like, for example, like everything has to be the same exact feel and look for me,
Yeah.
So, sorry about that.
It's okay.
So that's kind of like a weird thing, but so everybody is kind of unique about it, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes your personality your way. As long as it makes you feel good and makes you happy, you should adhere to it. You should be happy about it.
That's right.
Now, Rachel, you said something about books, and I know you have a few. So you mentioned 4, and so let's talk about your books and the content of your books and the audiences for your books.
Okay, great. Well, all 4 of them, like I said, are colorful, illustrated by me, and they all fall into the genre of self-help or personal transformation, personal growth. And I really mean for them to just love people up, to be reminded of their worth, to think about their worth and their magnificence in new ways, to really, in both delightful way but deep way, start to consider who they are and leading them through some maybe new ways to think about who they are. Like some of our conversation today, leading them through listening to their life. My very first book was called All I Did Was Listen. And that book, the first chapter is messiness inside, and the last chapter is I am who I am, who I am. But the sense of leading the reader through considering their wonderful messiness, because we all have messiness, like when we wake up from dreaming and we have soft lines on our skin, maybe from the pillow, and our hair might be messy, and we may have some kind of pajama or not, and we're waking up fresh from dreams where we're just so honest about what's going on with us. And these are our precious selves in that space. And that book leads you all the way to I am who I am, who I am, this embrace of who you are. But that particular book, the page spreads include anonymous client quotes from my therapy office where people have just over the years taken my breath away by their insights and things they have said. And sometimes, and maybe even especially, out of their suffering and pain, the wisdom that can come. And so I, in that book, couple each page spread with an anonymous client quote and my written reflection that's kind of prosy, sort of just soft reflections, soft meaning in my tone, just very loving for the reader, for them to think about themselves. And then my colorful illustrations. So that's my very first one. And all my books sort of run through those kind of themes. My newest one is called The Relationship Book. And this one I felt moved to create during the first 2 years of the pandemic, when it was so clear how much our relationships mean to us, the way we became more isolated, and some people who were single having to be super isolated, who had lived by themselves and worked, were able, thankfully, to still work with their computers. But I know for some of those people, they got pets for the first time, fostered a dog. I mean, we need connection. And we found our way back to one another as human beings. We, whether it was, hey, let's get on the phone and maybe take a walk outside together. Even if you're across the street from me, we'll walk. Or just all the different ways, with technology that we were Zooming a lot more and just doing things to find each other. So it was during that time that I felt really moved to create a book that touched on relationships and really out of that time. So this book, the relationship book, starts with the chapter about relationship with yourself, and then covers different ones: relationship with food, with clothing, with animals, with people, with community, and with divinity. And so, but again, full color and really loving up the reader as they're considering these different relationships, and so that they're feeling nurtured as they're really thinking about each one of those arenas in their lives.
Now, this last book, Rachel, is just released, right? It's November, this November.
Yes.
So
just
well, congratulations, and
Thank you.
I think we can never have less of those books. We want more of those books because I think we all can use some advice one way or the other. And you're right. In the pandemic, it was just very, very difficult for a lot of people, and depending where you were, in what part of the state, in what state, things were very different. Depends on the policy and regulations and the lockdown format that people received. And by the way, it's not just here. I mean, worldwide, some places they were even more strict and super isolated. You can even go out in your. I mean, I was I'm originally from Morocco, and in there during the pandemic, you could not walk out to your door. Actually, if you get caught at the door, they actually arrest you. So you can.
Oh, wow.
But when they had a curfew, it meant a curfew. You can't even walk out, do anything. You can't even hang out, outside. So it was, that kind of limit. So you think that the people had severe problems and trauma, I would say, just from.
Right.
I mean, technically, we use isolation as a punishment or disciplinary,
like solitary confinement.
We almost had that for someone who's single, who has no one, living in an apartment, cannot even talk to the neighbors. Maybe is not tech savvy. Forget it. I mean, that was tough. So I do appreciate the work that you've done here, and I think a lot of our folks, should potentially, seek and check out the book, because I think that's gonna, hopefully adjust some of our thinking and myths, and maybe listen. I do not want to wish this. I don't hope, for anything bad to happen. But after what happened in the pandemic, you cannot dismiss a potential anything, right? And so, because we all think they're never going to happen, and it did happen. So God forbid it happens, what you do. So maybe we need to be well prepared. And a lot of people sometimes are always ready and have their bags, they have their plans, they have their food, whatever. But it's emotionally can be worse than actually physically. You can prepare physically, but emotionally is a whole different story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So Rachel, I want to ask you a question. Like you said, the first book was about listening.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, like, how does it feel when you just listen to people?
Yeah. How does it feel? It's interesting because I think to truly listen, it's a continual work to empty our own voices somewhat, not completely, but how all the things can bubble up when you're listening, like, wait a minute, what am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Or wait a minute, I want to say this next in the conversation. Or wait a minute, what time is it? Or all the flurry of thoughts that go through our head. It's like trying to meditate, and just empty my own thoughts. And it's hard. And then, as I'm just meditating, then suddenly other thoughts go through my head, right? Like, oh my gosh, I forgot to call so-and-so back, or whatever, just all the sudden thoughts that go through. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to notice that, let that kind of go through. And I think that listening to other people is really similar. That, do you know what I'm saying? It's a discipline to keep bringing myself back to center, to really hear what's coming forward.
Well, it is powerful because, I mean, I think most of us are typically talking and not listening. I think that is, I think, a difficult thing for a lot of us because we just tend to
Yeah.
talk. I mean, it's funny. I have been in sales for a long time, and it is always known that we are talkative. And I mean, here I am doing talk shows, right?
Right.
So,
But thank
so
goodness. Wonderful.
yeah, no, but the funny part is that, like,
Yeah.
in sales, listening is more than talking, and most people don't see that aspect of it when you're actually talking with customers. You want to grab and absorb everything. You ask the right questions, and you listen, and you hear exactly what they say, and absorb it, and be able to actually use that in a good way. And but the majority of folks tend to just want to talk, and people talk over each other for most stuff. I mean, it's tough to actually even have a conversation. You go anywhere, like, everybody's talking and chit-chatting at the same time. It's like hard to but nobody, like, you don't see people just watching and listening, and nodding, and just absorbing it. And that's an art or a skill. So now you do that. I mean, you're a psychologist. That's what you do. You listen to people.
Mhm.
But on the flip side of that, right, you are listening to a lot of people's issues, problems, concerns, dilemmas. How does that impact you?
Yeah. Well, here's part of it. I think the truth is, I'm also listening to their beauty.
I love it.
And so, it's like, I'm going to say the extreme. So, have you ever been at a party? I think the answer is going to be yes. It could be a party, a gathering, whatever, where you're stuck for a few minutes in a conversation that you're so disinterested in. It's very surfacey and empty.
Plenty of those.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Those affect me. Now, if I get into that kind of conversation, that's tough for me. But give me a real conversation any day. And so with my clients, which I don't know, I also just tend to work with tons of gorgeous people. And I just think that's true. I don't know how I won the lottery, but I do. I don't know. I don't know how. Sometimes I have to stop myself from saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so wonderful. Oh my gosh, did you just hear what you just said? That's like a poem. Oh my God." So I think that's how I do this for so long, is that I really am moved by people's beauty and their real stories. So that's really the truth of it. And when people cry, I don't know if there's also a practice of having done this for so many years. I think about also this term of compassionate distance, that I really recognize that their journey is their own, so that as they're sharing their suffering, I can even sometimes feel teary in my eye and really, truly feel for them. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that's their story and not mine. And so it doesn't super seep into me. And I know that my job is just to be present to them. Now, certainly after a super full day, if I see a lot of people, I'm tired, so there's that. But it's not the kind of drained that I would feel from an empty conversation.
Well, listen, I kind of agree with you, because when it's engaging, you really, it's just, it gets you going. But so what I love what you're saying is that you see the beauty in people.
I do.
You listen to that, and I know everybody's beautiful.
Yes.
People think whatever they want. I think everybody is special, unique, beautiful, and worthy. And doesn't matter what scale, because people have their own scales, and they're all arbitrary. So people make their scales based on multiple reasons.
Yeah.
And you could be the best in your scale. Doesn't matter what scale that is, but you are. And I think when you apply, that whole ideology where you actually seek that beauty in somebody, you will find the beauty. Because I think, to your point, everybody has it.
Yeah.
But I don't think everybody seeks that
or knows it.
Or knows. Well, your friends, your family sometimes may not even know.
Yeah.
And that's the sad part,
Right.
So it is unique that you are able to do that and deliver the right, I guess,
Yeah.
outcome from these discussions.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And I think even for our audiences, maybe it's something that we should start thinking about. Like when you talk to someone, don't worry about the fluff. See who they truly are within.
Right.
And that
Right.
you could, from a good conversation,
Yeah.
discover that person.
Yeah.
And without judgment. I think that's the other part. We all go in
Right.
judging people before we even talk to them.
Right. Yeah. Like if, so for example, in meeting someone new, what if you led with questions like, I would love to learn what matters to you.
Mm.
And can you tell me things about what you really love? Like, what if we led with questions like that? What would we find out about people?
Well, you're right. But unfortunately, we all lead with everything about us, not everything about you.
Right.
Because when two people meet, it's all about, me, 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 me. And it's never
Yeah.
about you, you, you. And that's, now on the flip side, it will sound like an interview, but really that's actually a good thing. If I know more about you, I can actually probably meet you better, right?
Yeah.
And be a better companion, better discuss, a
Yeah.
friend, whatever the case may be.
Yes, that's
Uh,
right. And people deep down most need and long to be seen and to be heard. And so if you can give that gift to who's in front of you, then they're going to win the lottery.
Again, imagine if we have that, that's going to be a whole new world, right? But
Right.
we're not there yet, but
One person at a time.
one person at a time.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rachel, for that. So now the next question is, I know I mentioned art playgroundist. So can you just clarify what that is? I think I have an idea, but I think just if you-
Sure. So it's a made up term from me. And it's because when I make art, it feels like I'm young again and it's recess and I'm on the playground with my friends and we're on the swings and the wind is in my hair and I'm free. So it just felt like the most accurate term to me to call myself an art playgroundist.
I think we should all do that. I think if we find that, listen, we always say we all have an inner child, right? And we always have that
Yeah.
personality. And
Yeah.
sometimes we lose it in life. But
Right.
again, talk about Disney, right? I usually,
So
it brings you back to to your inner child. That's the whole magic behind it, right? Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
age you are, you walk in there, you become a child again. And I think
Right.
we should do that outside of Disney too.
right, like our magic kingdom inside.
That's right. We'll carry it with
Yeah.
us, right?
Yes.
So that would be powerful. But I think again, nice that you do these shows and these discussions, because I think we can at least bring the concept to people. And I think everybody watching and listening right now can just pick that up, like maybe a spark, like maybe you could do this. And I think everybody can. It's just a matter of be aware that we can do it and then just find a way to do it. And I think we can all do it. So maybe we can help some people today wake up and say, like, you know what, I'm going to just be me and then take my little child back and enjoy myself, at times. And as doesn't matter what level I am financially, doesn't what level I am, in society, I can still be me. And, and that's an important piece, because if you're doing that, then you're always going to be happier. And if you're happy, everybody around you is going to be happy, because that's the other thing. The vibe, the energy is going to drive.
Right.
And then your performance, your just whatever you do is going to be much better.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It ends up being a gift to everybody, right? Because it's that idea of like, man, shine your light, let it out, let yourself see it. And you're just going to make the room brighter for everybody.
Love it. Now I know, Rachel, we do have a hard stop and we got a couple more minutes. So I've enjoyed this discussion. I've learned a lot, and I think we can apply, all of us, some of the stuff we talked about today. Now you coach people as well.
Well, I what would I say? So I'm a psychologist, so I have therapy sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just through the psychology therapy, but no personal coaching.
No coaching. So I facilitate therapy.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Rachel, in the last minute that we have, or 2 minutes, what would be some advice you'll give our audiences today
Okay.
to carry with them as a torch to actually help them and light up, their world?
Yeah. So if I were to say it, I would say in a few words, just in your clothing, begin to think about, if it feels vulnerable, like what's a pair of socks even that you could put on today or tomorrow that would feel somewhat like, ooh, yeah, like joyful to you. And what is a meal or some ingredients that you could plan to make this week that your inner child would love? And ask yourself, are my relationships honoring me? And am I them? And am I taking the time to listen to myself? Maybe I could go on some walks with myself or do some journaling or have trusted companions who listen, who can hear me out. But I think noticing what brings you alive and where your joy is not just lighthearted business. I think that it's life-changing and it's profound.
Rachel, that's so powerful, and we're gonna use that, and I think our audiences will, get that nice nugget of wisdom there. So we're about to close our show. So where can we get the books? Your last book and all the books.
Yeah. So I have an online shop, and the easiest would be to go to rachellawes.com, and the last name is spelled like the beginning of awesome. It's AWES. I say that just as a memory thing, but just rachellawes.com. And once you get to my website, you can click on shop, or you can click on counseling or blog or whatever, and my social media, whatever from there.
And Rachel, you do sessions worldwide, I'm assuming, via Zoom, not necessarily in a room.
Online.
Online.
Online. And if people are local in Minnesota, then we can be in person as well if we're healthy.
Well, I love it. I love it. So
Okay.
Rachel, thank you so much. And I mean, I wish we had more time, but I know it is what it is. We took what we can from you and the wisdom, and I think hopefully this will enlighten a lot of people out there. So thank you so much for being with us and for all the good stuff we got in, folks. Thank you for being with us, watching, listening, and hopefully this show, is bringing you a whole new level of happiness and joy in your life. That being said, I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.